Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So tomorrow's ratings are free for everybody. As long as you've got a free Rating the Races account, you'll be able to see the ratings for all of the races. So do sign up for a free account. Let's kick off with our selections for tomorrow. We've got 4 races at Chester and 1 at Ascot that I'm looking at. And we'll start off in the 130. You'll know who it is if you follow my selections, you follow my videos. It's Revic. Revic returns to this race after finishing 3rd 2 years ago and winning it last year. 3rd off 95, won it last year off 92, returns again off 95. Now, you'll initially say, why will he win it then off a £3 higher mark? Well, last year he would have won it off a £3 higher mark. He won by 3 lengths and he won going away. So, I don't think 95 is beyond him. Also, last year he beat a horse called Witch Hunter. Witch Hunter ended up winning a Group 2 after that. Well, actually won at Royal Ascot first in the Buckingham Palace Stakes before going on to win a Group 2 and is now rated £10 higher. So the runner-up is rated £10 higher, the winner is only rated £3 higher, and yet the winner beat the runner-up comfortably. Revic does like Chester. He's ran multiple races here at the track, really good races at the track. And I think his first 2 runs this season have all been about getting him back and getting him to drop in the handicap. So although last year he was running well in like the Lincoln and then the Spring Cup, that came off marks of 93 and 92. This year he disappointed in those races off 98 and 97 because I think they felt they needed to drop him down the handicap. He could have ran okay in those races without winning, but instead they tried the opposite and went, let's get him well beat and turn up at Chester, hopefully in good form, off a lower mark. And they did get him dropped. They've got him dropped £3. Jim Crowley's back on board. He had 4 goes on him last year. 3rd, 1st, 4th, and then he did actually finish last at Goodwood on him in a Golden Mile, a feature handicap. He only went off 11 to 1 that day. So he generally gets the rides in the big handicaps. He was 3rd in the Spring Cup. He won this race last year. He was 4th in a Coral Challenge at Sandown, and then he disappointed in the Golden Mile at Goodwood. But his Chester form is very good. He did return to Chester off 95 under Paul Mulrennan, finishing 3rd behind Master Zoffany. There's so much to like about Revic here. The draw is fine in 7. He doesn't need to go forward, so he can just drop him behind Jim Crowley, pull him out just as they're turning into the straight, and sweep down the outside. And I think he's going to run a huge race, to be honest. And you can currently get 10 to 1 about him. I think that's a great price. Let's move on to the 305. In this race, I think there is a future Group 1 horse that's going to progress this season and really kick on to where they thought. And that horse is Passenger. I like Passenger. I liked Passenger after he won the Wood Ditton. I liked him after he was 3rd in the Dante. He disappointed in the Derby. They gave him a little bit of time off after that. They gave him like nearly 3 months before he returned when winning the Winter Hill Stakes. Now, he beat West Wind Blows and he actually beat Burdett Road that day. Obviously, Burdett Road went on to be a Triumph Hurdle Hope, but didn't actually make the Cheltenham Festival. But yeah, I think Passenger will be... I think he'll kick on this season and get back to the sort of level they thought he was. He went off favourite for the Dante. He should have won the Dante. He should have won a Group 2, the Dante, and turned up for the Derby, probably lower than 8 to 1. He went off 8 to 1 in the end for the Derby. That's how highly regarded he is and what they think of him. He's still a colt. Doesn't surprise me. They've not gone and gelded him because there's clearly plenty of ability in Passenger. And I think this is the season we'll see it. Because don't forget, he didn't start racing. He didn't race as a 2-year-old. His first race was in April. Less than 2 months later, they were trying to run in a Derby. So yeah, I think it just happened a bit quick. That time off to go back to Windsor really helped. And I think this another time off, 258 days, I think he'll come back here and be a much better horse than he was last season. And I think he'll be able to beat Isra, who looks the obvious danger. Let's have a look at the prices. Passenger is currently available at 11 to 4. I think he will win this. I think he'll go off shorter than 2 to 1. Let's move on to the Chester Cup. So we've got 2 in the Chester Cup and we've got 2 in the Chester Plate. Chester Plate, yeah. Did it used to be called the Chester Vase? I think it did. So my 2 in the Chester Cup will start on ratings order. The first one is Aquam, who is only a 6-year-old for Ian Williams. And I think they've just learnt what to do with him. They've just learnt to step him up in trip, to go like 2 mile and even further than that. His form over those sort of distances has been very good. Over the winter, he was very good on the all-weather when they finally stepped him up in trip. Now, before that, he'd been running over like a 1.2 miles, a 1.4 miles on the turf. And then they stepped him up to a 1.5 miles, 1.6 miles, 2 miles on the all-weather. And he started to win races. He won at Chelmsford over a 1.6 miles, Newcastle over just over 2 miles. He then finished second over a 1.6 miles at Wolves. He won, his last win was 2 runs ago in the all-weather Vase Marathon, when winning over 2 miles. And then last time out, he disappointed at Kempton in a race that you would have thought he would have gone close. The London Stayers Series qualifier, the Queen's Prize. Got well beat off a mark of 90. But if you listen to Ian Williams's talk about this race, he said there was a couple of horses that had been running over the winter and we just backed off them. They backed off them and yet still ran them. So I think he turned up this day, Aquam, in April, unfit. I think they'd given up. They'd gone, that's it. We're not riding. We're not doing very much with him anymore. And it was just like he ran here just in case sort of thing. I think he'll bounce back tomorrow. I think he'll run a much better race. This has probably been the plan for a little while. Ian does like to have runners at Chester, particularly in the Chester Cup. Obviously, he's won it a couple of times. He won it most recently with Magic Circle, which was excellent. Franny Norton rides. I think he can do almost what he likes with him. They could go forward or they could hold him up out the back. I think he's going to be held up out the back, which means his draw is almost irrelevant. Drawn in 6. I think they can jump him out, sit him in mid-division, let others, go past him on the outside, do too much around the outside. And then when Franny pulls him out, I think he'll pick up really strongly for Ian Williams and Franny Norton. Obviously, Franny rides Chester really well, so he'll know when to be making his effort. The second horse that I do like is Zoffy. Now, Zoffy runs in this race having ran in it last year. Finished second in this last year, off a mark of 93, returns off 90. Why can't he run a big race? No idea. I think he will run a big race. Granted, his form kind of tailed off towards the end of the season, and he didn't run particularly well over hurdles, but he's back to the flat. He's back to a track that he runs well at. I imagine they'll go Chester Cup and then back to Ascot again for the Heritage Stakes, where he ran well again. I think this time of year might be the key to him. I think after those 2 big efforts at Chester and Ascot, that just left its mark for later on in the season, and he disappointed. But because he disappointed, he dropped from a high of 95, and he runs now off 90. After he finished second last year, beaten a neck off 93 and ended up rated 95, if you said he was going to come back off 90 the following year, I think quite a few people would have gone, well, I'm going to have a bet on him then. And I think it's right too. So they are my 2 for the Chester Cup. Zoffy is currently available at 10s and Aquam is available at 14s. Moving on to the plate. Oh, just going back to the Chester Cup. If the Grand Vizier was better drawn, I would have been really keen on him. He's a massive price, but I think he wants to go forward. He's drawn in the car park, and I don't think he'll get across. If he does get across, he's going to be really worrying, and he's going to be one that I'm like, please don't win, because that'll be one that got away. Chester Vase or Plate? Chester Plate. Who do I like here? We'll start off with the one that I think, if he is fit and ready to run his race, I think he wins it, to be honest. And that is Law of the Sea. I'm just going to refresh the prices to have a look if we've got more now. We haven't. Law of the Sea at 15-2. Do you know what? I think he wins this, and I will be disappointed if he doesn't win this quite comfortably. Okay, his form got worse as the season went on. Take his first 3 runs. They were huge efforts last year. Fourth in this in the Chester Cup last year. Fourth in the Chester Cup, not the Chester Vase or the Chester Plate. Sorry, fourth in the Chester Cup, off a mark of 90. He runs here off 88. It's the same course and distance. It's just the easier race, and he runs off a £2 lower mark. Why doesn't he take all of the beating? He then went to Haydock, ran a really good race, finishing second. I don't think he got the best of rides that day. And then went to Ascot for the Ascot Stakes, finished fourth, beaten 2.5 lengths. Off marks of 90, 91 and 92. He runs here off 88. Okay, towards the end of the season, his form dropped off. Newcastle, Goodwood, Ascot, Newmarket and Newmarket. But I think it was key that he'd run 3 big races at the beginning of the season. And I think that's when to catch him. I think he's going to run a really big race here. They'll be gutted they didn't get him back into the Chester Cup. Hopefully they can make amends here and win the Chester Plate. And then go to Ascot. I think they go straight to Ascot then after that, for that Ascot Stakes where he ran so well last year, finishing fourth. So he's definitely one I like here. And I think that 15-2 is a good price. I thought he would have been near a favourite. The second horse, just in case it's if Law of the Sea is just actually woefully out of form and isn't running anywhere near his best, then the horse I like to take advantage of that is Dreams a Dozen. Now, Dreams a Dozen, I think, is the type of horse that needs this sort of trip, and they've just been testing that sort of thoughts out when finishing third recently on heavy going at Newmarket, and also 6th of 7 in a race at Kempton. Now, they don't look great efforts. The 6th of 7 came on ground that I think was too slow, and the third, Well Beaten, also came on ground that I don't think suited him. I do think he likes good ground. The ground isn't an issue. Last time he ran at Chester, he actually ran on good to soft. He was beaten ahead by Urban Outlook. That was perfectly good form. And I think over this slightly longer trip, I think he's going to improve again. I think he's the type that can improve again. He's only 4. And now going up to these sort of trips. If he was a 7-year-old stepping up to these sort of trips, it might be a bit late, to be honest. Whereas he's only 4. Maybe running in these types of races as a 3-year-old wouldn't have been the right plan, but as a 4-year-old, they definitely are. Charlie Johnson, Franny Norton. We know Franny, as I said, Franny likes Chester. He knows how to ride Chester. He might try and make all the running. He might also drop him into mid-div. I hope he drops him into mid-div from stall 8. And if he does, I think he will run a really big race here. If, however, Law of the Sea is on song, I think Law of the Sea will win this quite comfortably, to be honest. But they are 15-2 and 17-2, Law of the Sea and Dreams a Dozen. We then have one more at Ascot. And that selection will be Eminency. Now, Eminency has everything. They're trying everything all in one go, pretty much. They've got the tongue tie on. He's been gelded, and he's moved to Stuart Williams. If he's going to win a race, it may well be tomorrow. Some of his efforts last year were really good runs, especially his third at Newmarket when he was behind Quino and Washington Heights and in front of Funny Story. That race worked out really, really well. And to be fair, Eminency kept franking that form as well. He then went to Windsor, finished third behind Tough Enough and Rocking Ends, and then went to York, finished fourth behind Quino, Washington Heights, Millstream. All of that form worked out really well time and time again. The others kind of kept going up in the weights, especially Quino. Let's have a look what Quinault started. So he started off a mark of 80 last season and ended it rated 102. Eminency, who finished third that day, was rated 86. He runs here off 87. He's only gone up a pound. We can even look at Washington Heights. Washington Heights was rated 80. Washington Heights, when he got beat, was rated 89. He's now rated 104. No, he's not. He's rated 113 when he won the Abernat Stakes, beating Millstream. Washington Heights has done it. Quino has done it. Millstream has done it. Eminency is the only one that hasn't. And yet he'd been running perfectly well, and he only had the one poor run at the end of the season. If he bounces back off 87, a mark that he's gone close off before, with all of the extras that have happened. So he's been gelded, he's got the tongue tie on, he's moved stables, he's beautifully drawn. He should take all of the beating, to be honest. And it totally makes sense why he is the 9-2 joint favourite. I think he'll go off favourite. He went off 9-4 favourite for a similar handicap when rated 87. I don't see any reason why he doesn't go off. I think he'll go off sub 3-1, to be honest. And yeah, I think Eminency is going to run a really big race at Ascot. So they are my selections for the day. We start off with Revich to win again in this race. Passenger to demonstrate that he's the future Grade 1 horse. Zoffy and Aquam to run big races in the Chester Cup. Law of the Sea in the Chester Plate. If he does disappoint, Dreams a Dozen, I hope, is the one to take advantage. And Eminency to, now that they've essentially thrown everything at him in one go, hopefully can get his win that he thoroughly deserved from last season.